Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
Hi, welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. It's Cassie and Leslie. We're so excited today to have a really special guest for me, for sure, on. Aspen Wilson is the service manager for Quality Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, which is my company. And I knew that we had to have Aspen on the show specifically because she's a force. And she has brought so much value to our company. And she has just really shown what can happen, what can happen. I mean, I just think that's it. And so, Aspen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is our first in-person.
In-person.
Right.
Well, we did the one inside of HR.
It's very special. Okay.
But
I feel like that doesn't count.
It doesn't count because we were new. We were we didn't even remember what we were doing.
That was a blur.
So, Aspen, tell us a little about yourself. What do you do for... I guess tell us, where did you come from? Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where did you come from when you came to Quality? And then what have you done?
Okay, well, I came from North Dakota. I was a GM for Verizon. So, I started out as a CSR with Quality because I really liked the culture that they had. And so I just wanted to be a part of that. And I really did good at CSRing. I guess with the customer service background and things like that, it kind of just took off. But what kind of motivated me in that was just making sure that the guys always had something on the board because my hourly was promised pretty much. It was a guarantee, right? But for them, it's not. And being so weather driven and things like that, that was just my major driver. And that's when I go back and talk to the CSRs, that's what I help them strive for as well because that's just so important to me. Then eventually I ended up going to inside sales. Cassie.
Whose idea was that?
Yeah, Cassie pulled me into her office and goes, "Can you leave on Tuesday, you think? Less than a week away."
And she's like, "For what?"
But why did you think of that for her in particular?
Well, so I literally threw it on her that quickly. I brought her in my office and was like, "Hey, there's this training I want you to go to on Tuesday." And it's Thursday and it's in Nashville. And can you fly? Do you have a babysitter? Can you do all these things? Can you come up with will this work? And she's like, yeah. But, what was it even for? And so that came because I was watching the relationships that she was building with our customers. And then we had this miss at that point where we were creating options. Our guys were leaving options in the field, but we never had a follow-up. So if we went there and maybe we didn't fix it or repair it or replace it, it just stopped. Our conversation just stopped.
Right. That's super common.
It's super common.
And we leave a lot of money on the table that way.
And so I was listening. I always like to everyone in our office jokes that I have microphones all over the office, which I do not. But I have mother ears. And so I can always hear. And that's one of the pieces for me when we built our office, I had to have my aquarium, right? I wanted to be able to see what our team was doing and hear them, not because I didn't trust them, but it's really fulfilling to know what our team's doing and hear them talk about customer service and those things. And
real aquarium, or you're saying your team is your aquarium?
No, my office has windows on both sides, so it's I'm in an aquarium.
Because I didn't remember you having a real one.
Okay, no aquarium. And so I would be listening to Aspen, and I was just so excited about the customer service that she was offering and how well she understood. She picked up very quickly to the industry, and that doesn't always happen, right? So
clicked.
You don't have to understand the industry totally, but you have to have a desire to learn it. And so really quickly, Aspen, I felt like,
How long had you worked there at this point? before inside sales?
June to November.
So really not that long.
No.
It was, and then so whenever I go to Aspen, I'm like, hey, can you be inside sales? Do you want to do it? And she's like, and we didn't have a job description. We did not have a desk.
No.
Her first desk in that spot was 2 fold-up white tables in that corner because I was like, if I do this, I have to fill the CSR spot.
Right.
And she's like, sure. And so she really like went out on a limb and was willing to just do that. But I think that
Were
it
you
was
scared?
definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, because I remember you're like, what is the income?
Well, I when I was CSRing, I'm like capacitor, condenser, contactor, all these things, and like mixing it up. And then you go into inside sales where you have to have a little bit more of an understanding. So I caught on quick.
She definitely caught on quick. So she went to that Next Star Inside Sales training, which is a game changer. And then from there, she just created a plan. And then the next thing we know, girls selling sewers. She loves plumbing. She's selling sewers over the phone. And in your 1 year, I'm sorry, in your first month, you back from training, you closed.
I believe it was 120,000. Yes.
And that was just following up in houses you guys had already been at.
We've already been there.
Yeah, already been there.
And
We
you're
just
like,
left
hey,
the customer.
this is Aspen with quality, and I saw you didn't pick the best option.
Or you picked 0 option.
Right.
So
what did we do wrong, and what can we do to restore the relationship?
Yes.
Or we just charged an $89 service call.
Yeah, we prioritize those, kind of get an understanding there of what happened, what could we have changed, if anything, and maybe it's just clarification on it too. Sometimes maybe it wasn't just explained in the best way. So that was huge, and that was a big driver for me. Again, the customers.
And then Aspen was a big driver of helping.
Well, because that probably helped
help
operationally
help the technicians
with your service manager. That
Yes.
sounds so scary to me. You really have to have a personality to be able to want to call and have those conversations.
Yeah.
They're not easy over the phone for sure. But yeah, creating what made me be so successful, especially, was building the relationship with the technicians. They knew that they could count on me. And if they were running into a roadblock, I'm like, dude, call me. We'll work it out. Get me on speakerphone if you have to. Call me at 8 o'clock at night. Let's make it happen. Let's do whatever it takes to get the job.
And sometimes that different perspective of helping, she's still explaining the same things, but maybe they understand differently because maybe the technician was too technical. And
sure.
And that happens a lot.
Honestly, we don't even realize how often that probably happens.
Yes.
Especially if it could be a male to a female.
That's what I was just going to say. With our comfort advisors and stuff, sometimes with a large purchase, it was they were like, hey, do you mind going with me just to kind of bounce off? So with a woman, making that decision, a woman customer.
Because you have to understand your audience. And as women, we advocate for women every day, but we're still only comfortable with what we're comfortable with. And everyone's had a pushy salesman, and that's not our goal. How often are we always saying, one of Quality's core values is be a solution provider, and we're providing solutions. We're not selling things, and you have to change the mentality of selling things. We're providing solutions, because do you have to have air conditioning? No, but you really probably do have to have plumbing in your house. And truthfully, do you have to have air conditioning?
Yes.
In the 20s, no, but we're used to it now.
And we're in Oklahoma.
And it gets hot, smoky hot.
Yeah.
So then her first year, her first month, she closed $120,000. And then in 2022, she closed
$1.2 million.
Dang.
over the phone.
I hope Cassie was writing some serious commission checks on that.
I literally all the time I would be like, girl, have you seen a check? Yeah. It was awesome. And it was so really at that point too, it was crazy to look, Aspen, then and just see how much you've evolved. Again, was a capacitor, because that's really where you started. Leslie called it a capacitator once. That's really where it started with you, was a capacitor. to now, how are you selling $1.2 million over the phone? What do you think changed? What do you think was?
Well, the inside sales position definitely takes kind of being your own boss and learning how to drive yourself each and every day. And I think it falls back to kind of what I said about driving me in the CSR world. It's about our technicians having work. It's about creating the culture within our company, but also within our customers. And our customers were a huge driver for me too. And I feel like the revenue just really falls into place when you focus on those things. And that's what I try to portray now into what I do.
People,
so
serve people.
It all works out, I feel like.
So what are you seeing, because now you've moved in, maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I have a legitimate question. So, I mean, you could ask it from the inside sales because you would have firsthand knowledge. I know when the feedback, when Brenda and I are always talking about the hardest thing for the technicians in the field is asking for the money because some of these repairs are so expensive or they're scared to do it. Right? It's not the technical knowledge. That's not the hardest part for them.
No, not for them.
So what are you finding? How, is there anything you can add to that? How are you supporting quality with that? Did you uncover anything?
Well, yeah, just through ride-alongs and one-on-ones and stuff, I do see where it's easy for a technician to be a technician and get really technical. But from that, breaking it down to what the customer understands and using analogies and things like that. We oftentimes, a car with 300,000 miles, if your system's old or whatever, using those things and helping them be able to develop into that is kind of what has helped.
And then I think a good deflection of, the money, because people often offer with their own pocketbooks, right? I think being able to finance repairs is a huge help with that of so I can do this today for $18 a month or whatever. Yes. And then it turns into, well, no, I don't need to finance it. I'll just pay for it. And then that kind of like levels the ground if it's not so hard because you're right. Like we're thinking, can I afford this? Can I do this right now? And they stop listening to actually what's wrong, and they're now worried about money, and then the technician's worried about collecting the money too. Yeah, and so I think that's constant training. But we did jump a little. So why, Aspen, are you doing ride-alongs and one-on-ones?
Oh, okay. There's your segue.
Well, it's hard to train if you don't have content on what to train on, So doing those ride-alongs and actually seeing it is key in how you're going to train because everyone doesn't have the same issues, obviously, too, So, and then the one-on-ones are really about them. It's their meeting and I guess just liberating them. So it's a lot of times it falls into some really personal stuff, right. Rather than okay, what's going on in the field, So I see those things and that's just such key. If you're not doing it, you have to do it. That's just what it is.
So, but we still skipped the biggest key here. So $1.2 million.
Oh, gosh. Okay, yes.
Inside sales, but you are now the service manager, the HVAC service manager for quality. And I need to say something.
And that just happened pretty much, right? A couple months ago?
2 months.
1 month-ish, yeah.
I have to say that to all of the people listening, the owners specifically. Cassie, you had a really great CSR and you moved her to inside sales. Cassie, you had an inside sales that did $1.2 million. How could you lose that spot? And why would you can't hold your team back because they're good.
Right.
And that was one of the first things of I really wanted to, when we opened this HVAC service manager spot, I didn't even know if she would go apply. And we made sure to tell her to apply, because it was hey, I don't know if you actually read the job description of what we're looking for in this role, but you need to apply. But, I remember talking to some of my friends outside of our company that was how are you going to move her right now? Look what she just did. And I'm I can't hold her back, number one. But number two, think about if she was capable of doing that in inside sales, what could be unleashed as a manager training the 10 service technicians in the same processes that she's used to doing.
Right, true.
So in our first month of her being service manager, we saw an immediate increase of our service tickets. And then this month, for the first time in I'm pretty sure the history of the company, we're on pace to hit our service revenue goal, because we don't always hit our service revenue. We hit, of course, we'll hit our install, but we didn't always hit our service. And now we're pacing to hit both. But because we have someone managing the day-to-day that has the time, that's her sole job. And now we're back to managing relationships.
Are you managing efficiency at all?
As far as like just in general?
Do you have that role split up where we were talking about your field? Do you have a field manager?
Yes, we have a field supervisor.
That he's measuring efficiency and technical stuff in the field.
Yeah, he's more the technical. That's really everything he's doing is, obviously if a technician called and was like, Aspen, I can't wire this capacitor, she's not going to tell him what to do. But her field supervisor is. But as far as like gauging the time on the job, yes, absolutely.
You are doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a huge focus for us right now because, one of the biggest things, every business sees what are your two losses most of the time, labor and materials, and we've been spending a lot of time as a management team trying to dial back and figure that out. And then start having those conversations specifically about, okay, why did this job take this much time? So yeah, she's helping with that. Now, obviously you'd have to bounce that off with your field supervisor. And Oscar's a really good resource of that too, because he can tell you, no, that should not have taken 3 hours.
Right.
Where were we at, or what were we doing?
And I feel like just my drive in general, I feel like within the year, I will probably have a pretty good grasp of a lot of the technical things too, because that's just who I am. Like on the side, that's my plan.
Because she's going on these ride-alongs and she's not afraid to get her hand hurt. She what do you say? Your dills and heels, or your heels to tennis shoes. Yes. Like she'll come to work in her heels and then change into tennis shoes and jump in the front seat of a truck. But she's not scared to do that, and she's not afraid to do that. And how do you think that on the customer side, when you show up, I've never asked you this question.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good one.
So when you show up with the technician as a female and you're his manager, how do you feel that goes?
I feel like the first couple of ride-alongs were a little bit choppy as far as they're like, how do I introduce her and things like that. And so they were just kind of like, oh, this is Aspen. And then we got to talking a little later and stuff, and the customer would be like, so you're in training? And I'm like, actually, no, I'm the manager. So nice to meet you and stuff. And I carry myself obviously like that. But it was a little bit awkward at first, but people are usually pretty intrigued because I'm 26 years old. I think I'm probably younger than any of my technicians, and then being a woman too. But it's all good. I like it.
Did you guys have any pushback from technicians having her come on, being so young, or was there young and female, or was the relationship already so established from her being in inside sales?
Well, I want to answer, and then I want you to answer because I obviously am going to only see so much and only so much passed to me.
True.
Because everyone to me was like, we're so excited, Aspen's so good, because she did have that relationship.
Right.
She was, those technicians knew that
they
she
felt
was
like she was an advocate.
Yeah, and if you're already their lifeline, they trust you. But I would be intrigued to know if maybe you did have a little feedback. This can be off the record.
I know.
But, because I could see I'm a 40-year-old HVAC technician that's been doing this for 18 years.
Right.
Yeah, 18 would they be? 20,
I'm not going to listen to her.
Whatever. So many years. She's 26, and she does not know what she's talking about. I could see that, but I think, so I'd be intrigued to see.
Yeah. Our HVAC department has always had a really positive, open-minded attitude. So walking into it, I immediately was like, let's have one-on-ones because I need to break that down and have that conversation. And everyone was super open and positive because they identified that this was not their strong suit and they needed somebody to be there and to just really hold them accountable to that. So while I challenge them and they might not love it all the time, they know that I'm going to support them too. So hopefully it works itself out. But yes, I had good
because
feedback.
it's a win-win for them.
Yeah. And because her biggest thing is, like, one of the core values for quality is be a solution provider. And, you know, we had a service meeting this morning that I went in with Aspen because I was specifically talking about materials and whatever, but I got into talking about, you know, creating options. Well, she drove here to Oklahoma City with me today, and she's been out in the lobby area working all day. And I stepped out for a minute where I heard her talking to a technician who she knew had left options. And nothing was sold there, which is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But she said, so why did you offer? Tell us how that went.
Yeah, for sure. So I was like, okay, you offered those. How did that go? Because he told me later on in the week that he's really had struggles with just the presenting in general. His numbers have been a little lower, things like that. So he offered 3 things that were all enhancements. And I was like, okay, so let's back up. What made you offer these things? And he didn't really have a good answer other than, you know, it was a newer system. So obviously there wasn't a whole lot of room for cleanings or repairs or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, you told me about the equipment. So what about the customer? You know, what made you tie those together? And he just didn't have a solid answer. So I told him, you know, you're having issues with presenting, you know, it's exploring into that customer and digging in and figuring out what could help their life, what could improve, you know, things like that. And so I would rather you offer nothing than offer things that it's not going to be valuable for the customer, you know.
Or they have no clue why it's a value.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we talk a lot about indoor air quality and how horrible allergies in Tulsa or in Oklahoma are. Tulsa and Oklahoma City are in the top 5 of the worst allergies in the nation.
And you never know what you're going to get day to day.
Correct. And, you know, someday I'm a little froggy and some days I'm not. But most people are like that. Even the people who are like, I don't have allergies. I'm like, yeah, you do. You've
just built up a long-term immunity to it.
Yeah, you do. Or the people who just moved here and are like, I never had allergies until I moved to Oklahoma. And it's like, congratulations, that was your welcome gift.
Right.
You know? But like Aspen was saying, we're not here to just push boxes. That is never the goal for us. We're here to explain why we suggest this and to educate it and provide those solutions for you. And they're just options. You know, if you don't want to purchase that, if you don't need that, if you don't see the value in it, then we've probably failed because we didn't show you the value based off of the questions of, are you sneezing a lot? Are you, you know, what do you have a lot of animals in the house? Those types of things. But we're not here to just, yes, we would like to have the options on the ticket, but we don't want you to just pencil whip options. We don't have like a bucket of like all these pre-made options like copy and paste. We have some that like fit together normally all based off of a need. We know, but most of the time it's got to be individualized to the customer.
Yeah, you know, obviously my position at this point is a little more sales driven, but ultimately I'm here to enhance the relationship with the customer. And again, hopefully the revenue falls into place. And even if it doesn't, the lifetime revenue of a customer, if it doesn't happen right now, like, you know what I mean? That's huge.
Right. Exactly. What do you feel, you know, at 26, I'm really putting her on the spot here.
I know, what's the next career path?
Maybe, you know, because at first we were like, I think she needs to be a comfort advisor. And she, I think for a little bit was like,
wait, does that come after this?
No, no, it could have been before or after. But I think if, you know, listening to Aspen speak and unknowing Aspen, she can sell anything. That's a given. But she's a really good relationship creator, and she knows how to teach that. And so in turn, she's a very good leader. And you can be a really good leader and a really good salesperson, but at some point you kind of choose which one. And I feel like, you know, transitioning from that inside sales into service manager, while some thought I was crazy, We have filled her position with a wonderful person who's doing a great job. Aspen's training her. Obviously, Aspen's going to train her, right? Yeah. But, I think if we would have talked 2 years ago and I was like, you're going to be the service manager for the heat and air company. And
who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it? Would you have literally been like,
yeah. I know we talked about going into like a comfort advisor role, and I could have done that. I seriously considered it. Probably would have been a lot more money too, because they run and gun, so they deserve it obviously. But I know where I want to be, and I always in whatever position I'm in, I do more than that. I do 110% every single day, no matter what. I don't care if I'm feeling like, can you cuss on here? Like shit, okay? And that's what it takes, That's what it takes to get to the next step. So doing more than you're paid to do.
And that's her drive, and I have to give, some major props to her because she's 26. She's a young mom. Her fiance travels for work, so there's a lot of times that she's single momming it, because he's gone. She literally, I hope she doesn't kill me for this, is type 1 diabetic, and she will start beeping, which knows her blood sugar is going down, and I'm panicking because I'm like, Aspen? And she's like, and so anyways, ma'am, what I was saying, and I'm like feeding her, like, should we start sending her Skittles? But she's a hustler, and I'm like, girl, or hey, I'm going to run home. My sugar just dipped, and I've got to go do this. And I'm like, okay, I love your commitment, but
stressful out there at Quality.
It is. So, but I just think that just goes back to show a lot of her character.
Right.
Never have I said, Aspen, screw your sugar. Right. Screw it. Take care of the customer. The customers are always there, but she's just very, really focused. And like she said earlier, she carries herself as a leader.
Right.
And the team that she works with sees that. And I think everyone would agree with me that before she had the HVAC service manager role, that there were plenty that looked to her to fill that too.
The natural leader.
She just what? You're a natural leader. And we had someone filling that, and he did a great job. And he's still with us, for the record. He was just managing both plumbing and HVAC. And so what we did in our company is we divided that. And now we have 2 new people in the HVAC service manager and plumbing service manager. And then Rich, who was formerly the 2, is now leading the entire, kind of like in a way, a general manager type.
Does that mean Oscar's retired?
No, Oscar's still there. He would, I think, some days choose to farm. Here lately, that's what he's been doing. It's been a good break for him because that too, in transitioning in the company, he's been doing it for 29 years. And, I think having people be able to do the things that we've done is really exciting. Mm-hmm. And knowing you can trust them and you can just leave it. Mm-hmm. So that's good. No, Oscar's not retiring. But, definitely are we training people to allow us to do that?
Yes.
Yeah. And so anyways, that's the story of Aspen. I'm super proud of her at Quality.
I'm proud of Aspen too.
Thank you.
And Kaylee.
Kaylee's in the back here. You keep it in a giggle. We have a great time at Quality, but I just think that we really wanted to showcase Aspen on our show because for a lot of things, but who would have thought that we would hire a CSR? And this kind of goes back
it's crazy. And it's not a very long timeline.
It's not. Well, and I think this goes, we had a different show earlier where we were talking about the people that we hire might not always be fit for the seat we have on it.
That was Stephanie.
Or
right, you were talking about right seats, right people, right seats.
People and being in the right seats. Aspen, when she was a CSR, was in the right seat, okay, because she was amazing for that season. But Aspen, when she was an inside sales rep, was in the right seat. But we could have made a choice, and I think companies make this mistake a lot, where they're like, that person's really good, I can never let her move out of that, and we hold them back. But instead, you reframe
and our employees are our first customers. If we're going to serve people, we have to serve our employees.
Absolutely. So then if we create new roles or new positions for that person to go into, what creates next is a lot of people that have that same vision, drive, culture, feeling, and passion that are now working for her. And so I think that's huge. So Aspen, I know this is one of those cliche things, But, you know, you were a manager for a Verizon.
Yes.
Okay. You never saw yourself coming to HVAC. No. I know that was never happening. And I say HVAC, she's an HVAC service manager, but like she's really good at selling sewers. Like,
well, if you
really
ever
good.
Move to the city.
Our plumbers would be like, what? Like I was there. Like you sold the sewer, and she's like, yeah, like they have to have water,
right?
You know, or like whatever. Like
they have to be able to use their toilet.
Yes,
it's kind of a big deal.
It's kind of a big deal, and so she has a big passion. I think when you first promoted, I kept hearing her say, "I'm really loving this, but I miss plumbing a little bit," which has been great because our new plumbing manager is training. They're training together, so they're like in this really good spot together. They are. But you know, again, 26 higher to be a CSR. What would you say to like anyone that's maybe a CSR listening to this that wants more for themselves in their career? Because it's not always going to be field work for women in the trades. There's skills everywhere.
Right.
But what would you say to that CSR or that entry level type position of what's possible?
I would say come to work every day and make sure that you have the right mindset and give 110% every day, and it will pay off. Mm-hmm. And then also just in general, you know, I said at the beginning of the podcast, just the culture at Quality, that's what I wanted for myself, but we've even amplified that. We talked about this on the way, and making sure that we have the right caliber of people within that role. But I would say create the culture that you want to be a part of.
Yeah, you do that. And then be willing. That's a core value for Quality. Be willing to grow, and you're not just a CSR. You know, they're not allowed to say that. Our CSRs are like, I say they're not allowed. Like it's not like that serious there. But I don't want them to ever feel that way. Our CSRs are the lifeline of our company.
Right. They're the first line of defense.
Yeah, the front line. Like they are literally on the phone. And yesterday I was having a conversation with someone. We were giving away pallets. And she was like, I need 4 pallets. And I said, run back there and get some. And she's like, I can't. I got to hit my calls for the day. I can't go back there. And I was like, this is like, she was like holding herself accountable to make sure she had got all of her calls out for today so she could make sure that 3-day call board was booked. Mm-hmm. And I was giving her a pass, you know? And that's the culture it's not like we're sitting here like, be on the phone. You cannot get up from your seat. You can't pee. Like none of those things. This is not, those type of call centers at all. But she created that in herself of, I have a goal to hit today and I'm going to hit it. And the owner of the company is giving me a pass and I didn't take it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't implement that. Right. You know what I mean? And so I just felt like that was such a crazy moment in there. Cause I'm like, girl, I just gave you a pass and she didn't take it. But you're not just a CSR, and you can step into whatever role. And when those positions open in your company, surprise those dudes. If you are in a company that maybe is primarily male, and surprise those dudes and apply for it and show them why you can do it. Yeah. Because it just takes a little trading. 1 minute you know about capacitors, the next minute selling it all.
Selling sewers over the phone.
Yeah, closing deals.
Right.
Yeah. To clarify for someone out there listening, selling sewers over the phone after it's been bid in the field.
Right. We've already been on site. We're not just willy-nilly calling people.
We're all just like, yeah, what we're going to do is dig it up. It's been pre-bid in the field. So, Aspen, I'm super proud of you. I know there's a whole lot of women in our space that have been watching you grow and are super proud of you. I could get really emotional. But the sky is the limit for you at Quality, and I know you know that. And as we grow, you grow, and there's so much that's just happening, and I can't wait to see, because like Leslie said, 2 years ago she has it been 2 years even?
No. 2 years and like end of June.
End of June. So almost 2 years.
It is crazy.
You came in as a CSR, so just think, I mean, what could happen in the next 2 years?
Oh, can't wait to find out. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Aspen.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review at Apple, and make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.